Okay.
Here we go.
We're live. I think we finally figured it out.
There you
go. This is the inaugural Ask Me Anything call. That I just kind of, the reason I thought about this idea was I think that, with my YouTube channel especially, I talk a lot about things that have happened in my business, and I talk about different, strategies that I use and all that kind of stuff. But one of the things that I think I get a lot of feedback on, and I'm sure you guys do too, is like what's going on in your lives right now. And so that's why I thought, this would be a good opportunity for me to create this environment where, people from my YouTube channel, from my Facebook group, and your audiences can like jump on and just ask questions about, life and business and everything else that's going on. So that's how this came about. And thank you guys so much for being here. For those of you that don't know you guys, Zac Danielle and I have been friends for many years. I used to work for Keyspire back in the day and traveled around all over North America. And I met Danielle through Zac, I think it was in Montreal for the first time.
Exactly.
And Danielle runs a very successable social media business. Zac's a residential commercial realtor, an investor. So these guys are very versed on many topics, and I'm excited to just kind of dive in on all of it. And the other thing too that I want to sort of talk about today is the fact that you guys have just been traveling.
Yes.
And I want to hear your stories about where you've been and what's going on. I see a couple people jumping in the chat already, so it's great. It seems like it's all working.
There we
go. So thank you guys, first of all, so much for taking some time to be here. I'm excited about just kind of chatting about life and everything else that's going on.
Me too. Yeah. Thanks, Darren, for having us. Yeah, it should be good. We're excited for this conversation. I think it should be a good one.
Yeah, absolutely. So why don't you start? I guess let's just tell me a little bit about for people that don't know you. Maybe just Zac start and just give us a bit of a quick bio on what you do as an investor and then as a business owner and all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So it all started about 7 years ago now, where I jumped into real estate, bought that inaugural first property, student rental property in Hamilton. Ended up selling that, started to get into more like the multifamily, the duplexes, the triplexes, the BRRRR strategy, and really just trying to incorporate as many strategies as I could and try to figure out where I found the best potential for moving forward in that career as a real estate investor. And that really was multifamily. So I specialized in the multifamily world as an investor, ended up getting my real estate license and really trying to focus in on being a real estate investor focused realtor as well as. So that's kind of been where it led me. And then obviously to this point too, meeting Danielle in terms of her social media side, in terms of her entrepreneurial spirit, I thought it was just a phenomenal match when we got together.
Yeah. Threw that in.
Yeah. And Danielle, give everyone a bit of a bio on you.
Yeah. So 3 years ago, I graduated from university, studied something totally different, political science and economics. But after graduating, I created my own business. I was working as a social media manager for somebody, and I decided to create my own business and live life on my own terms. Built a team this past year, so it's been really amazing. I have a team of photographers and talented social media strategists from around the world as well. But yeah, it's been super exciting. This adventure this year has been amazing for my business and been connecting with a lot of people.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. So
yeah.
What have you guys been up to? I know you traveled, and you traveled a lot. Like this is not like you went to Amsterdam for 8 months. Like you guys were bouncing around seemingly every week or so.
Yeah.
Like it was a lot of moving around. So explain how that all came about, I guess. And then like take us through a bit of the journey of your travels and where you guys ended up going. And then we'll talk about how you kind of worked your business into all that, because I think it's this nomadic lifestyle I think is something that's becoming more and more popular.
Absolutely.
And maybe where you got the motivation from it, or for it, I think probably maybe came from some books. I know I talked about this, and now it's a new thing where people are like, hey, I can work remotely, or I can do this, or I've got employees all over the world, right? So you don't necessarily need to be tied to a location. So I guess start there. Where did the idea come about, and how did you sort of move it from an idea into reality?
Yeah, for sure. I could start this off. So, right. I think during COVID, it really hit us. We always wanted to travel the world, but never kind of planned it out exactly when we were going to do it. And at that time during COVID, Zach and I were just friends, and we were meeting up for coffee and talking more about our adventures together.
Coffee dates, business meetings.
Business meetings. I know. But we basically talked about like we wanted to live this dream and travel the world, but how are we going to do that? And at that time, we were like, hey, we're going to have to do it on our own kind of thing, right? And at that time, we never thought about doing it together because we were not together. And once we got together, it was like 6 months after we decided to book a flight and leave. Yeah.
I just told her one day, I'm like, Danielle, if we don't write this down and end up booking our flight, we're never going to do this. Right. And I think everybody being trapped inside with COVID just made us even more wanting to pursue this passion and this dream that we've always had. I think we both had it separately growing up and going throughout life as well too. So it was kind of cool to come together and merge both of those dreams and then end up pursuing it and end up making it happen as well too. Yeah. Super grateful.
And like, you know, not like this shouldn't be lost on anyone. You're relatively new into your relationship.
Oh yes.
Like, that's a pretty big step. You're like, hey, let's go travel the world together. You know, was that a concern at all? Like, were you guys, or how did you have a conversation before you started? Like, what happened?
I'm curious. What did you think?
Honestly, I didn't think of it as anything. It was more our families and friends like, oh my gosh, you're going to travel the world with this person that you just started dating for 6 months. And I'm like, I didn't question it at all because it was like, we both are so confident with ourselves and our business and what we do. And that it was an adventure that we were willing to take on from my perspective.
Yeah, I think we definitely had people that were like, you know, warning us, like, you know, making sure is this the right thing to do. I looked at it like there couldn't be a better test to know if we're going to be a great fit together, right? Confined to that small amount of space for that long, day in and day out, 24/7 together. Like
it's going to make her
literally.
Yeah. At the end of the day, I'm like, this is going to be a great test to see if this is really what we want and if this is going to be a good fit moving forward. And I think we came out with 2 smiles on our face.
That's good.
Yeah. No.
Couple scratches.
So tell us where you started and then take us through a bit of your travels.
Yeah. So we started out in Asia. We flew into Thailand because it was during the time that COVID just started to open up. So that wasn't our first destination. Our first destination was Bali, Indonesia. But we had to change some plans around. So we did Thailand, Philippines, Vietnam, Bali, and then went over to Europe. You want to name all the
Yeah, it's almost impossible to name them all. I think Danielle ran through it and think there was about 18 countries total that we ended up hitting. And you've been to Europe, Dan. You know how it is. You take a bus, you're going into country, and 2 hours later, you're going into the next country. So we went through almost all of Europe, starting basically from the east side, coming all the way over to the west side, finishing off in Portugal, and then heading down to Curacao, going into the Caribbean before we end up coming home.
Yeah.
Okay. So Asia, and then Europe, and then Curacao.
Exactly.
Obviously, there's some sort of reason you went there. But what were some of your favorite stops? I guess let's start in Asia. Where were some of your favorite places?
I love Thailand for their food.
Yeah.
Food is amazing. And Bali. Bali was it was just filled with like motivated entrepreneurs. Everywhere you went, we were at the gym, grocery store, anything, you're running into people talking about business. It's insane. Like they're coming from different parts of the world too, and they're all living there. So a lot of expats.
Like this idea of like living this nomadic lifestyle of working and traveling. And now, were people generally there for longer periods of time, or were you finding others that were kind of on the same travel schedule as you guys?
I would say it was mostly people that were actually like living there long term, having their business set up, and actually maybe it's 6 months, maybe it's a year that they spend in Bali. But like Danielle said, it's honestly like going to a conference, like that same energy you get where everybody's trying to share ideas. It's like that, but it's like in a city. I've never experienced anything like it in all my travels, and it was just really, really cool to experience. And I tell everybody that to go check it out.
Yeah, well, I see Steve Arneson is jumping in the chat. Hey, Steve, and I just want to say hello to everyone jumping on right now. Feel free to drop your questions in for Danielle and Zach and myself as well if you have a question for me. But Steve's asking, what was your favorite architecture?
It's a tough one. What do you think?
I think Europe was really beautiful. Greece was in Athens.
Pictures from Greece looked amazing.
Yes, Greece had beautiful architecture, and Italy. I would say Italy had beautiful churches.
Yeah, across almost all of Europe, you could just get these majestic looking churches with like super intricate detail as well too, where you can literally just look at it for hours, just picking apart all these little things. And especially highly recommend people to do the free walking tours.
Yes.
We were told this, and you look at the church and you think, okay, the architecture is beautiful, but then somebody brings you along and actually explains what each little thing means and all the meaning behind it. And I thought, to me, that just made the architecture even better than what I once thought it looked like.
Yeah, I would echo that. Just my recent travels to Europe. I went this summer as well. We missed each other by
I know.
So close. So close.
Or it was Paris. We missed each other.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
Coming in and we were going out. I was there with my nephew. But we did the same, right? And I think that was such a cool thing for him. I think he rolled his eyes a little bit in the beginning. He's like, oh, I don't walk. Because he's 19, right?
Yeah.
He's like, can we just go drink and
have fun?
Let's get a bit of
We will.
over here, right? So, those are great, and I think they're great for showing you some local spots to go and eat and check out. You also get a bit of a history, but it's not a huge commitment, right?
Yeah.
And it's free, but it's also like they encourage
tipping,
which we always did. And
of course,
that's kind of a thing that everyone does, and so it's free, but it's not really. But it's such a great way to see. These like not little European towns, but European destinations.
Exactly.
Yeah, and to know about the history too, I think like going to a country that was really nice and the unique story behind them.
Yeah,
we love that part. We're always constantly learning in every country we visit.
Makes history a lot more interesting. I remember I never liked history back in school, but when you're there actually experiencing it and seeing it, it made it so much more interesting for me.
How did you guys pick your itinerary? Like, what was the
Oh, so we literally left, like we just planned out Asia before, like just decided which are our top countries. When we were in Asia, we stayed for like a month in each country. So it was like more of a slow pace, which was nice. Europe, we just winged it last minute. Sometimes we booked things 3 days out.
Really?
We're like, you know what? We're going to go to like Vienna was random. We went to Vienna.
Yeah, I think we had like a general consensus of like the top spots we wanted to go to. And then as we were booking them, it was like, oh, well, the bus is going to take us through Vienna. Yeah. We might as well stop there for 3 days.
And call that we hit a country, an extra country.
Danielle wasn't the biggest fan of that plan, but sometimes I'm like, Danielle, we're going through Prague. Let's just go for 2 days, check it out, see what the city's all about, try the food. That's obviously how I got her to agree to it. It's always like the food. You get a new experience. So she loved it. She absolutely loved that.
And then like, were you staying in Airbnbs mostly? Was that kind of your?
It was a little bit of everything, I would say. Yeah, I would say we tried hostels, we tried Airbnbs. A lot of European countries, you'll notice they don't have a lot of Airbnbs. There's not a lot of competition out there, so majority of that was actually hotels that we would stay in, and hostels. Lots of hostels.
Yeah.
And were you bunking in with other people, like a 6-person room in a hostel?
Yeah.
You did
we did private and we did together. Like, because I never experienced a hostel until this year, to be honest. Like Zach's done it in the past when he did solo traveling, but I've never. So that was an experience.
I had my first hostel experience this year.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah, with a caveat.
Yeah, exactly.
I stayed at Selena in Nosara.
Okay, that's different. That's different.
High-end hostel.
We didn't do Selena at all.
Yeah. I had my own private room. It was 2 floors.
I saw the video. Oh yeah, that doesn't count. It's like your own apartment.
Hotel.
Beautiful place. Yeah. Selena's a great hostel.
Yeah. So that was my hostel. But there were rooms at Selena where you could have like 12 people in a room, and I'd rather slit my wrist.
Yeah. Honestly, it's experience. Yeah.
No, for sure. And I think you guys are at a different point in your life.
Yeah.
But I think it's a really cool way to travel and to do that.
And to meet people.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
Hostels are all about
amazing for me.
Exactly the community and everything that they really strive to create. I think is one of my favorite parts about going, especially as a couple too, right? Because we tend to stay together a lot. So it's like sometimes it's nice to meet other travelers. Like, where are other people going, right? What are other people's journeys all about?
So let's talk about your businesses,
because
I know that you both kept working the entire time. On how did you do that? I mean, I know like for you, Zach, you're a realtor, and I would have thought that most of everything that needs to happen from a realtor's perspective is like literally boots on the ground.
Yeah.
And you're halfway across the world. How did you first make the decision that this was going to be something that you were able to do? And then tell me how you executed on that. Because I think this is one of the things when I talk to people, I'm like, oh, I'm going away to Costa Rica for the winter. I'm leaving December. I'm coming back in April. And they're like, oh, I could never do that. I'm like, okay, like I'll challenge that a little bit. Like, oh, I've got kids. I'm like, well, Costa Rica, Nosara has a school that has kids that attend there for 4 months or 5
Yep.
months of the year. And they've set that up, right? There's systems for
Perfect.
that, right? So I think when people, and I get it, there are some people that cannot actually leave.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people will use that excuse as a reason not to go and do what you guys
Of course.
did. But how did you figure that out for being a realtor and something that's, like I say, it looks like a profession that needs to be in the location where you're trying to sell something.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. Honestly, like I think it started throughout COVID when I really realized that people could buy properties and do a lot of things virtually. We were doing virtual showings, we were doing virtual meetings, and that kind of all started normalizing not being there in person to go do showings and to go do all the things like you're talking about that for decades and decades were so normal to be physically present. And then obviously having the right team, right? I'm blessed to have an amazing team, boots on the ground, that I could heavily rely on to do the in-person things while I was still able to do all the analyzing and all the back-end stuff. To really make the whole process really, really simple. And it was phenomenal. From the moment I left to the moment I landed, it was just such a smooth transition with my teammates and my clients, and everybody was just able to move along just perfectly fine.
So were you taking on like additional roles that you may not have done like if you were here? So I'm thinking if you're remote, maybe does your focus switch more to like analytics or looking at new listings or opportunities or things like that? And you can say to your team, like, I'll take on all this and you guys will handle showings or whatever else. Is that kind of what you did?
Exactly. Yeah, that's a great way, especially because, as I said before, I am more focused on the investment side of the business anyways. So it's not as much about the first-time home buyer. So it's way more analytics, like analyzing properties, looking at different investment opportunities, and also doing back-end paperwork, right, running pro formas and things like that, which was able to really help my team on the ground where, you know, they're out doing showings. Well, they already know kind of all the back end stuff is taken care of and all like putting that stuff together is all done. So it honestly worked out as a great team when I was gone.
Okay. Ray's jumping in the chat here. I want to Ray Vaza, who, you know,
love him.
Hey, Ray.
Hi, Ray.
He's like any locations where you buy property, which I think is a great question.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think
all
like,
of them.
yeah, I know. If money was an option.
That was a favorite. I mean, you mentioned Valley. Would you buy property there if you could?
Yeah, you know what? We did look at a couple of developments out in Bali. The only thing is they do have a rule, like you are only allowed to have the lease for 25 years, the land. Right. And you don't get to own it unless you build a business for 2 years, operating for 2 years.
Yep. And have about 5 local staff.
Yes.
I think was kind of their criteria to be able to own the land. But yeah, Ray, I think Bali easily would be the first place that we would look at to buy property. Just again, that community, being in that energy, even though the land leases were in place, it seems like it's very normalized in Asia. Like everybody's kind of okay with the idea that they're not going to ever own the land. And it seems like even the sellers are, you know, everybody's in that same mindset, right? It's so different than here, right? To us, when I first got there, I'm like, what do you mean you never own the land? You have to lease this, but you build this beautiful villa on top of it, but you never actually own the piece of land under it. And it was this hard thing to wrap my head around, but I think the more people we talked to, the more normal, I guess, it made it feel, right? Hearing other people's stories.
Yeah, we met up with so many developers. And I think that's like the strategy that we would go, is that you would just create a bunch of villas, live in the one unit, and then sell the rest out.
So similar to what you're doing in Costa Rica.
Right?
That's what we're doing now. Yeah.
Exactly.
So do they build accordingly? Like if you only have a 25-year land lease, do you think that they put like less into their builds because they're like, well, there's no point, or can you renew the land lease?
You can, yeah. But again, it's a negotiation, right? Now that price might go up. Then now it's like, do you want to, or do you want to just like smash the house down because you don't want to give them the house plus the land back?
Yeah. So people do it.
Yeah, it's tough, right? But
hard work.
In terms of construction, like the ones we walked through that were being built, everything looked completely normal. They still had foundations in, they still had concrete walls, like everything looked normal, just as we would build houses here.
Beautiful too, beautiful work.
Beautiful work.
The workers, they live there, like they live behind the houses, and they built their own little shack, and they build till night, day, night.
And they work all the time.
So it's projects are done, like what turnovers are 8-9 months.
Yep, something like that.
That's amazing.
Oh yeah.
So was Curacao, just to tie that back in, was Curacao there for business or pleasure or both? Or because I know that, you know, for instance, like some of the folks that are on today, like Ray and those guys, I know you guys have been down to Curacao.
Yes.
And I know there's a big group of investors that have been purchasing properties there recently. So was that a business trip, or was that just tying it in for you know, last minute destination?
According to the CRA, business trip. How to put that? No, it was business. We didn't get a chance to obviously enjoy the country and, you know, have time to check out the beaches. We went scuba diving. We went to Glen Curacao, which is a small little island off Curacao for anyone that's never been there. But there definitely was a business component too. Danielle was working there, doing her photography, her social media work as well.
Yeah, so I was working with a couple of investors out there. So I went to take photos and videography of the properties, like 10 beautiful luxury villas that were owned by Canadian investors. Got to experience that and stay there for like a whole month and stayed in the suite, worked with models, worked with people in the area. We were able to collaborate with some of the businesses out there. So we got to experience that as well.
Nice.
That's
great. That's a great transition into like your work and doing that remotely.
Yeah.
So how was it for you managing? I mean, tell us a little bit about your client base right now, your staff, and then how you were able to grow that. If I'm not
absolutely. So before I left, it was just me working as a social media manager, and then I didn't I was at the early ages of building the business, and I didn't know how to delegate. Zac actually helped me a lot with this because he delegates all the time. And for me, I'm always that person like, no, I like to be in control. I like to do all of the stuff. But I've learned as I was living this beautiful life by design that sometimes I need to like enjoy the moment and be present because I forgot to do that. I would work like 7 hours a day being away while Zac's chilling at the pool, taking a call once here and there, but then goes back to it.
All right, maybe a little bit more than that.
But basically I got jealous. I'm like, you know what? I need to start building a team. And then I looked out, I went on Upwork. I got a social media strategist that works with us. She's from Lebanon. I got a girl, Joanne, who lives in Philippines, which we got to meet up. She's my assistant now. And I have 3 photographers back home in Canada. So they were able to take clients and be here while I take a commission cut. So they were contracted. So it was really good. Like the business was still growing here when I was away.
What was the biggest challenge you think for working remotely for both of you guys?
I think it's letting go, right? And I've told this to a lot of people since we've been back, to even me as a real estate agent. I always wanted to do the showings, always thought like it was super important, but you realize once you're not able to physically that like you can let go of some of these tasks, like Danielle said too, where all of a sudden it's like it forces you to build a team, right? Which I think was super beneficial for both of us to realize that as much as we want to be the people doing everything, we don't actually have to be the people to do everything, right? We can delegate and actually grow a lot faster by doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I felt like another like big challenge for me was just trusting people, right? To take over your accounts and other people that I'm working with, like it's like privacy as well, right? So I had to learn how to trust other people to give them access and, open that trust with our employees basically. Right. So it took a long time for me because I like to be in control of everything, but in a good way. I felt bad. I felt guilty.
I think as an entrepreneur, you have to.
You
have to be in control of your business.
Yes.
I think that, this is something that I think, there's this whole movement towards kind of, I think you guys have probably read the book, like Who Not How.
Of course.
Yeah. And we talk a lot about it in our mastermind and different things like that.
Yeah.
But to a certain degree, you can, I'm like, is it on my shelf? No, it's not. But like, you can who not how things to a certain degree, but at some point as an entrepreneur, you have to know what's going on in your business. And you have to, be in control of it, right? So I don't, and especially as a sort of a new entrepreneur building a business, I find there is like decreased productivity, right? Of like, I have to train this person and I have to bring them and I have to be monitoring every single thing that they're doing in the beginning right? Until they sort of like feel comfortable or you feel that they're on a path that they can actually take things and run. So in the beginning, it's actually like, it's more work and it's more control. And then you get to sort of like take your foot off the gas a little bit. But I think it's so normal, I think, especially for those of us like myself as well, that we're just kind of hiring people for the first time. And it's a bit of an adjustment. Right?
It's an experience.
Yeah, for sure. And like that book actually taught me to not feel guilty because to give people more tasks to do. That was my biggest thing. I was like, Zac, I feel bad. Like I'm giving her more things. And then that book taught me like there's people who actually love doing this and they're grateful for it, for the position, right? So
that's such a good point too. I think that, there's a big thing, right, where it's like, do you actually enjoy doing this, or is it something that you have to do as part of your business? Right? And I think that's a very big distinction, right?
Yeah.
There are things that I do in my business every single day that I do not actually enjoy doing.
Yeah.
And I did this exercise. I can't remember who was with it. It might have been with the HR consultant that I brought in to hire my executive assistant. But it was like, what are the tasks that you do like every single day? So we need everything. And then it's like, which ones of these things do you like doing, right? So that was like another thing. And then what was the other one? Which ones of these things like do you feel like you have to do or that you would pass off, right? And so it was like, okay, eliminate all the things that you don't have to
get rid of them.
One,
yeah.
And then eliminate all the things that you don't like doing. And we were left with this like small list of things I actually enjoy doing and that I need to do. Right?
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, well then you take all that other stuff and now you got to go find people. But there's people on the other side of that are like, I love doing this thing that you hate doing, right? And I think that's a really cool thing to find somebody who fits that role.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's perfect
that's the
harmony.
exercise that I actually did.
Yeah.
And that made me hire.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm going to jump to a couple of questions in the chat. This one I'll throw to you, Zach. Multi-residential in Toronto in today's world, yes or no?
I say yes, but again, it depends on the numbers, right? You got to make sure you're running your numbers, being very careful, looking at all your interest rates, looking at the rent that you're getting. Obviously, rent's gone up substantially over the last little while here. 20%, right? So you really just got to analyze every property uniquely. The prices have come down where, before you're paying a lot higher on a price per door basis. So now you're getting a much better price. So you gotta outweigh the benefits and the risks, especially if you're having a 5 to 10 year outlook. You're getting a really good price right now. And I think that's the thing people have to focus on. If you said multi-residential flipping in Toronto, I'd probably say, now's not the time. But if you're talking, you want to own multi-residential for the next 10 years in Toronto, now will probably be some of the cheapest prices you're going to see for the next 10 years.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's my thought too. I was talking with my friend Jeff this morning, and we're just talking about, the economics of everything that's going on. And, we're seeing obviously another interest rate hike yesterday. 50 basis points, which kind of felt like a win. I was like, I felt like a little higher.
It's crazy.
And so, I think they're hoping that by early 2024, they will have gotten inflation down to under 3%. And then you know what's going to happen. They're going to be like, well, now we're in a recession, and we already are in a recession.
Exactly.
So they're going to do the opposite. They're going to drop interest rates again. So I think it's like there's a lot of like short-term panic in the market, but I think that, like you say, if it's a long-term thing and you can hold on to properties for a time, which has always been my philosophy. Yeah. Real estate's not generally a short game. It's a long game.
No.
If you're holding properties for an extended period of time, you'll generally do well.
Exactly.
This property we're sitting in right now, I bought it for $870,000 like 6 years ago, and that seemed crazy at the time. And
it always does.
It's worth $4 million or whatever it is. Like
so it's cyclical, right? Like you're saying, like it's always going to come back. Interest rates have to come back down. They can't maintain them at this rate forever, and they can't really afford to increase them any higher at this point, right? So they're kind of trying to balance it out and make sure that they're not sending everybody to go all of a sudden back to the bank and say, "Here's my property, I can't afford it." That's obviously not what they want. They're just trying to find that like happy balance of, people aren't going crazy and over leveraging, but they're also not losing their houses.
What are the best resources to use to keep up with the changes and news in the real estate industry?
It's a great question. I'd say any types of mastermind groups, any type of Facebook groups, networking events, all these different types of things where you're talking to people with boots on the ground, right? You got to be talking to people that are doing things, that are buying properties, selling properties, not just listening to CBC and, different news.
Say, avoid the major news.
Yes, exactly. I'm going to put them all under umbrella.
Not, like, going to give like the information, but
they will.
It's you're in social media. This is your.
It's there to scare you, right?
What do you do with your business? You're trying to get people to click on stuff and engage in stuff. Right?
Exactly.
And how do you do that? You do that by creating interesting posts, and that's what the news media outlets do, right? And
exactly.
I'm not a conspiracy theorist.
No. And I wasn't trying to say that either.
You want to have people that are actually living and working and looking at the actual analytics and the numbers. Right?
Exactly.
So for me, I like to follow the big commercial brokerages like CBRE and Marcus and Millichap and those kinds of places that have entire teams of people that are researching what's happening in the market.
And putting out great reports with stats and analytics and all that kind of stuff too. I think that's a great point as well.
I'm going to go back to So Steve's got another question. Where to start if you're going to double down on social media branding?
Then you'll handle that.
Double down.
Yeah.
So just going full force then. Basically, that's what you're asking, Steve.
Yeah, I think it's like, like for those people that are maybe dabbling with social media.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this question first. Like, how important do you think social media is to business these days and what's going on?
It's so important. If you're not on social media, you technically don't exist in your business.
Right.
It's the new way of marketing, and everything's going digital. I find that ads, like paying for like boards like outside to be posted, your billboards and all that, your face on there, like it does a little bit, but social media is the place, and not just one platform, many platforms. So Instagram is obviously a big one, and YouTube, like your YouTube channel, if depending on what you're doing, if you're teaching courses, that's perfect for YouTube and you're educating people. TikTok is a great platform for people to gain audiences. So that's a very big one. So basically you can recycle your videos and stuff, right? It's so easy. You just got to repost it and be consistent. But also personal branding is very important. So you have to make sure that what type of audience are you going for? Depending on what you're doing, you shouldn't be posting just anything. When you do those type of strategies, you're not, you don't have an end goal, then there's no mission for it. Like you're not going to get sales in what you're basically performing and trying to get. So business branding is very important. Personal branding is important. Just knowing exactly what's your vision in the end and who's your audience that you're going for.
So what do you think in terms of for people that are starting, like whether they're real estate investors or they're starting a business, is it something that you recommend creating a personal brand? Or like first and foremost? I guess this is more of a real estate question. So is it like, should it be Darren Voros, the real estate investor, or should it be my
company,
your company,
or Sweet Life Properties, or whatever that company is?
I would say personal branding.
Question.
That's a great. That's a lot of questions for a lot of people. Like they say, oh, like I have a business portfolio, but it's just my logo. But I'm like, because you're in real estate, you need to show who you are. People need to trust you and build that relationship, right? Real estate is all about relationships and building relationships. So I think being personal is very important. I'm building that and showing the real you, being authentic, like showing like what you like. You don't have to go out there and like show exactly all your personal stuff that's happening in your life. But when you show more than what you're just selling, like which is just like your courses or whatever, people get to actually know who you are and they want to work with you. And you're being authentic, right? People want to see the goofy side of you and see all these, like you, for instance. You show no, but I mean like you show that you do yoga, like you're an investor and you have
those
like
are the posts that get the most engagement.
And that's the thing, is because people want to see that you're not a robot, right? Like they want to see you have hobbies, and you kind of can resonate with them with those things, right?
And even going back to Steve's question, how to double down, got to hire a social media strategist.
Just bumping those.
It's just getting serious, right? Like I think about it too, even in myself, like, when I think about getting serious, you need somebody to kind of keep you accountable to like posting every day and, making more content, doing more videos and doing more photos and stuff like that. And you really need somebody with a strategy to outline that for you, to make sure you know the direction you're going and you're not just creating content for the sake of creating content. You got a plan and you know exactly where you're going. Right, Steve?
Steve's saying
always
be close.
Always.
I love it. No, and I mean, I worked with you and we just took a pause right now because I'm going through an entire rebrand. I'm so excited about my new website and all my branding that's coming out next week.
Oh, I can't wait.
If everything is going to plan like it is. But for me, I was like, well, because we had this month where we're like trying to restructure everything, I was like, there's no point in us continuing to work together because you're like, okay, I need this many pieces of content from you and we need to come up with a strategy and we need to release it on these different days. And I think people that don't know that necessarily about my business, right? They're just like, oh, I saw your post and I was like, oh, which one? So kind of like between Priscilla, who's my executive assistant, and you, you guys are managing it all. And I'm looking at it, I'm approving it. But it's like it's another entire job for somebody, right? And it's something that depending on how much you want to be involved.
Yes.
And a lot of what I do revolves around social media, around YouTube and Instagram and Facebook and all kind of stuff. But honestly, I teach this to my students all the time.
Yeah.
Because they're going to say like, well, how do I get investors, or how do I, find opportunities, or how do I do all? I'm like, it all boils back down to social media.
Yeah.
And I know that some people don't like doing it. They're like, oh, I'm not good on camera.
Yeah.
Or I'm not good. I'm like, you just have to find something that's authentic for you, because I know people that have built like an incredible presence. And I was talking about this the other day, around like you don't see them on video, or you don't see them but they're in these like Facebook groups dedicated to real estate investing, and they're answering people's questions and helping out and doing all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be the sort of like, turn the camera on me every single time. You can have a presence on social media without actually having to do a bunch of branding and photos and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You can be involved in that social media network.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is like, if people don't like being on camera or they don't want to create their own platform, if you will, then get on everybody else's platform.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right? I mean, you guys do this a lot. And it's like you want to get in front of somebody else's audience then, right?
For sure.
And it's so amazing to me that like people who run podcasts or YouTube channels like myself, it's like, I'm dying sometimes for content, right? Where people are like, can you just reach out to me and say, hey, I'd love to be interviewed or whatever.
Yeah.
People think that podcasters are going to reach out to them. No. It doesn't really work that way. So if people are wanting to get on a podcast, talk about what they're doing in their business, it's like, reach out to your favorite podcasters, and the chances of you actually getting on their channel are pretty good if you reach out and if you've got a decent thing going on, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
So there's like so many different things around social media, but I think it kind of does start with branding.
Yeah.
So if you're jumping into branding as a first exercise, what do you think are like the essentials that you kind of need to get started in?
Definitely for sure an exercise of what is the end goal in your business. So I'll give you an example. A real estate investor, for instance, if you want to sell and educate students in the future. So starting off from the bat, you already know what type of audience you're going for. You're going for students, you're going for people in real estate or interested in real estate and want to learn more. So then you're going to have to build this branding identity of yourself. Okay, what type of education do I want to start teaching? Am I going to start with the basics, like, single family homes? Am I going to teach these type of things, or multifamily homes? So these are the type of content that you have to think about. And being authentic, like you said, if you're not comfortable with just basically putting out texts, right? Like that's not building any engagement, personal, anything like that. So you would need to go on like your stories, talk about what projects you're working on and how you can educate somebody on that. So that's like an example of like those type of content that you can put out, and that's personal branding. But being yourself is should be easy. It should be easy, right? But like social media kind of scares people to get on the camera, and that's okay. But like you said, like maybe just start small and start talking to people, having coffee dates and meeting up with people. Getting on other people's podcasts is really good. And I do experience this a lot. A lot of people go, oh, I thought I would get picked. No, you got to reach out to people's podcasts. A lot of people are waiting to get picked. And it's not like that. And it's not like that. You got to reach out, and who knows, right? Like you'll end up getting so many leads from that. And
I think like the idea of this whole social media movement, I guess, if you will, is it's becoming more prevalent in so many different ways. There's so many different platforms, but I love what Gary Vee often says, and this is the best thing I think that I sort of made that switch a little while ago, was like, document, don't create. So just kind of like, the most interesting things that most people will see on social media are generally moments where it's like, turn your camera on if you're comfortable doing that, and just be like, talk about your day or whatever,
what you're doing,
or have somebody kind of shoot and follow you around a little bit, as opposed to like what I do, which is incredibly time intense. And my audience always really appreciates that. With the much time and energy I spend on like one YouTube video, like a 6 or 7 minute piece of content is like hours and hours of my time,
work.
And that's not even counting the editing and all that. That's all outsourced. Like, I don't do any of that. I'm just talking about me coming up with the idea and scripting and recording. That's where my responsibility ends. But even that, for every for every 6-minute video, that's like 4 or 5 hours of my time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because that's me creating. And I think if you can document versus creating, I think it's a very different situation, right? If it's
Absolutely.
like, turn the camera on you guys today and follow you around.
Yeah.
You'd have 100 pieces of content.
Exactly.
If you want it, right. So I think people overthink it a little bit.
Yes.
Right. It's
Absolutely.
just like, and now that's sort of like my follow-up question, and we'll jump back into a couple in the chat. What is trending right now on social media?
So I would say,
is it video? Is it short form? Is it like what?
Okay, so I would say definitely videos because it does attract more people to stay on your page. The videos, they like seeing authentic videos. So it's not like the reason why TikTok blew up so much is because there's people on there performing. It's like a performance, entertainment, right? But they're starting to do it more in different ways, like education, to bring in education in. They're showing like basically everything on the spot present. So people like that. They love seeing things like that. And that's why, like you said earlier, like your video of yoga does so well. Why? It's because they see it's present and it's something that's attracting and entertaining, right? So I think videos for sure is blowing up. YouTube is a great platform to be on. And
going to shorts now, right?
Yes.
Shorts is kind of taking over YouTube.
But same thing like Reels, right? You download the same video on Reels and you post it as a short on YouTube. You just never know which platform's gonna blow up. And like Gary Vee says, any content you put out there, you just don't know what will blow up. And might as well just put it out there.
Yeah. And I think like I'm happy to do a YouTube short. Like the production time on posting less. Oh my God. So
I know, right?
But I think that for me the long form content still is like it's a balancing act, right?
Yes.
Because you can only get across so much in a 1-minute video.
Of course.
Yes.
And I think it's funny because now like YouTube went to shorts and now they're going to monetize YouTube shorts, right? So I think you're going to see a lot. I mean, it depends on how quickly TikTok will move on this. But a lot of people are going to migrate, I think, over to YouTube. I mean, YouTube's been monetizing channels for a long time. Right. So they know exactly how to do this. So it'll be interesting to see how quickly TikTok moves on this and they start monetizing. Because if they don't, everyone's going to go to YouTube. Right. Yeah. Because they're going to be like, I'm going to get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars
for the work
to get a viral video going on YouTube. So it's going to change the game a little bit. And I find it interesting that now TikTok has now gone the opposite direction. They've allowed you to make longer videos
now.
Yeah.
Just because Instagram started doing longer, so then they changed to longer. So it's funny.
Compete.
Which I guess is like the thing. Like, you just never know, and you constantly have to be changing it.
And adapting.
It does.
But it's like that's why you have somebody like yourself who's an expert. Like, here's the new trends. Here's what's happening. Here's how we need to adjust the content. And here's how we need to move forward.
And it's like keeping up to date with music. Music's a big deal too. Audio. When there's like clips of new music coming out, you got to jump on it. Even though it sounds weird, you just put it in the background, lower the volume.
I know.
And that's the audio. It's there. It's going to trend. It's going to reach more audience, but you're not going to hear it as much. So it's just little tricks like that. Is
such a good tip.
Absolutely.
Let's go to some questions in the chat here. Zach, how many people are on your team, and are they managing your multifamily properties as well? And what tasks do you take on for managing your multifamily properties?
Yeah, so the whole team, it's a good question. I'm going to say it's somewhere in the range of about 10 to 15 because some are subcontractors and different people on my team, right? Different people that we can call when things happen. But they take care of the multifamily properties. They help me take care of my real estate tasks. I still, like Darren said, oversee the multifamily management and oversee, tenants going in, fixes, repairs, and things that need to be happen. But I'm just not the first person tenants call when things need to be fixed, right? So there's always that one extra step, and then it comes to me, and then we can make the decision together. And that's kind of how we move forward with those types of deals.
Yeah. So there was another part of that question, I think, is that are you managing your multifamily properties? In terms of what tasks do you take on specifically? You don't do much of that anymore.
No.
Just outsourcing all that.
Yep, exactly.
We kind of talked about the predictions for the housing market in 2023. We talked about that. Will home prices crash? Crash is such a relative term, right? And so thanks for the question, Mary. I think the idea around prices coming down is obviously relevant.
Yep.
It's happening already in our market. But I was trying to explain this to somebody the other day. I'm like, okay, so I saw a headline which was like, Kitchener-Waterloo, I think Cambridge was the largest decline in the Canadian market, something like that.
Wow.
You correct me if I'm wrong. It was 23% or something like that year over year, right?
Yeah.
Here's the thing that happened the year before that, though.
Yeah.
What do you think the Kitchener-Waterloo Cambridge market did the year before that?
Yeah, like 30%.
It went up 30%.
Exactly.
Right? So it's like, was that overinflated? Probably,
for sure.
Right. So that market went crazy, right? And then it readjusts to like back to like a somewhat normal, sort of like price point in comparison.
Yeah.
But I think that we're going to see, here's the reality that I think, and you can back me up on this or feel free to disagree.
No, of course.
The reality is we are in a housing crisis.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no question about it, right?
Yeah.
And I think that when you look at the numbers, there's actually less buildings now going into production because construction costs,
inflation,
because of interest rates, inflation,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So for those projects that were slated to start, now everyone's like, I'm gonna wait.
Yeah, exactly.
So now we're fueling this housing crisis, which is taking place. So that's just a simple supply demand economics. It's like if there's not enough supply and there's all this demand, that's why as of yesterday I heard there was the average rent in Toronto now for a 1-bedroom is $2,500 a month. That's the average, right, for a 1-bedroom condo, right? I mean, that's a simple supply and demand thing, right?
Yeah.
So I think when you look at all of that, I think, is there a crash coming? I don't think so. I think there's going to be a slowdown for sure. I think prices will correct a little bit, but again, like, if you're buying this year, awesome, you get a bit of a deal. And if you bought 3 years ago, you just don't sell right now. Right?
Exactly.
And hopefully you've set up your business that you're having positive cash flow. That's why I teach this all the time. It's like, make sure your property cash flows no matter what.
Yeah.
Right? Because now you can wait. Now you can sustain through the down times and you don't have to pull the trigger and sell when you're in a down market. Right?
Exactly. And I think that's the biggest point too, to really think about a crash. It's like, well, do people have to sell, right? Are they getting to the point where they're forced out of their homes, or are they just wanting to sell? And I think what I've been seeing in the market, talking to sellers and talking to buyers, is some sellers want to sell because they're afraid of the future, but they're not at the point where they have to sell. So that they're willing for their housing price to crash. Right? Sure, it's come down, like you said, 20%, 30%. So they are not getting last year's prices, but it hasn't crashed to the floor, and they're still getting probably a better price now than they would have got, 5 years ago, had they have sold then. So it is all relative. But thinking about a crash like the United States had in 2008 would be super difficult to wrap our head around how that would happen. Right? Like something catastrophic, I think, would have to happen for people to be just going to the banks and dropping the keys off and saying, I don't want this anymore.
Well, and the reason that happened was they don't have any money down on those
Exactly.
So they were getting about 0 down mortgages.
Yeah.
Right? So and that's the difference in Canada, especially as an investor. Like the minimum I have to put down is 20%.
Yeah.
And on most of our buildings, we're buying these properties for $2 million. Do the math. I'm not going to walk away from $400,000.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right. I mean, unless I absolutely have to, or I've been able to leverage up, but that's not really a reality. So that's why the Canadian market, as much as I hate sometimes the Canadian banking sector, how conservative it is in comparison to the US market, it's what keeps us afloat and keeps our market at a very different pace than the US market.
Yeah.
Couple questions here. JV Partner is willing to invest their RSPs into real estate, but it's through a trust computer share. How can we get access to these funds, and who do I need? Any help would be appreciated. Great question, Daryl. So I can answer this pretty easily. If they're willing to invest, and Zach, jump in here with me as well. If they're willing to invest their RSPs into real estate, it has to be in an arm's length transaction. So what that means is I can't, Zach and I can't own a property together, and I can use my RSPs to invest in that property because I'm technically not arm's length at that point. We're not arm's length, right?
Yeah.
So I can invest, let's say I can invest in Danielle wants to own a property, and she's saying, hey, can I use your RSPs as a first mortgage or a second mortgage? I could put a loan on Danielle's property, right? With my RSPs, and this is what you can do as well, Daryl, because we're not related by blood or marriage, and I'm not an owner of that property. I'm securing money against that property. So that's how I can use my RSPs in real estate. So
Exactly.
this is a great strategy that I've been using more and more of. I think getting those RSPs, TFSA, RIFs, anything that's registered through the government of Canada can be used if it's set up. Now, Daryl brings up a good point as well, and that's that there are only limited companies that will allow you to do that, right?
Exactly.
Computer Share, Olympia Trust, Canadian Western, I believe, is the third one. Maybe.
Yeah, and I think that's probably it.
So when you go to the big green bank or the big red bank or whatever, and you say, I want to self-direct my RSPs, they're going to say, yeah, no problem. You can do that with us. You can put it into a self-directed RSP account, but they're going to say, here are the 7 products that you can invest in.
Yeah.
If you get it into one of these other trust companies, now you can invest in mortgages, in development projects. You can do all kinds of things with your RSPs.
Exactly.
So, Daryl, feel free to reach out if you want further clarity on something like that. Femi is saying, Darren, I observe you're big on delegation, social media, property management, accounting. I have the same mentality. How has that worked for you so far, and how did you manage your team? I think, this is something that I'm learning every single day. It's like how to delegate and manage, and I'm definitely not where I want to be yet. I think that it's something that is learned over time. And I'd love to get your guys' perspective on it too. Like I've definitely struggled because I've always done everything in the past on my own. And so I think the thing to remember is there's probably somebody out there, Danielle, you mentioned it a little kind of off the top. It's like there's probably somebody that's better at that job than you are.
Yes.
For one. And then there's probably somebody who enjoys it a lot more than you do as well. Yeah. And then it's just a matter of giving them control. And then, but you can't I don't know what your experience is, but you can't just give it away and then be like, cool.
No, of course.
I'm not I don't have to ever look at it again. Right?
Yeah.
I think you have to be constantly checks and balances and making sure that the work is done to your standards.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
Yeah. Go ahead, Danielle.
Yeah, no, this year I've learned that a big delegating my business. And for instance, I built such a strong relationship with my assistant from the Philippines, and now she does all my training for my next hire. So it's that relationship that I started to build with her. And I think that's one of the biggest things is just trusting, being able to trust and give them the access to your business, basically, because you feel like you lose a little percentage of your business, but you just want to be that person that oversees things, because at the end of the day, you can be focusing your energy towards something, building your business, right? Instead of being in your business, you're building on your business, right? So I think that was one of the biggest things that I've learned, and it's growing, and I love seeing that, and I love seeing that everybody's getting along, and I'm happy.
Yeah.
I'm so happy that I have people who actually enjoy being on my team.
For sure.
And I think that's a big part.
It's a huge point.
Yeah.
I learned this thing that if you hire somebody, and I think I've been exceptionally lucky so far. I mean, I went through a hiring process. I hired somebody professionally to hire somebody for me.
Yeah.
But the idea that you basically want to have someone who can do 70% of what you might be capable of in that task is like a win.
Right?
Yeah.
And then what you might have to do is hire 2 people that are 70% capable of what you might be able to do as a business owner. And you basically combine those 2 people and you get sort of that 140% efficiency. You might have to hire 2 people to do that, but that's the way that if somebody hits that 70% mark, they're an awesome person to be on your team.
Yes.
Right? You're never going to find somebody who's going to
100%.
replace you and know all the things that you know. So if you can get that person to 70%, it's always a win.
Yeah.
Talk about a little bit, because I think this flows in nicely, about your campground and what you guys have done there this year.
Yeah, I think it's a good point too. Especially with managing a team and all that kind of stuff, and building the team and hiring. We went through and we hired 5 staff as well too for that place. Some full time, some part time, some remote, some virtual assistants, and all that kind of stuff too. So we had a nice wide range of staff. I think the biggest thing for managing the team, because I think that's where the question really lied, it's just touch points, right? Having that open line of communication. We had weekly calls to make sure that, sometimes it's just people wanted to vent, talk about, what's been happening. Other times it was strategy, this problem happened and how do we move forward? How do we deal with this? And how do we make sure this doesn't happen next time? So I think just multiple touch points and just making sure there's lots of communication, right? Open lines, no matter what it is and no matter what time it is.
Yeah. And talk a little bit about that property. Because I stayed there. You've got some
thank
tents, you've got some trailers. give it a plug.
Yeah.
Because it's so cool. We had 2 nights there. It was amazing. Your staff there was incredible.
I appreciate that.
Venues, everything. So yeah, talk about it, and then let's touch on quickly the promo you guys did and how that blew up.
Yeah, exactly. So the campground's actually called Grotto Getaway. It's up about 20 minutes away from Tobermory, right on Highway 6. We bought this trailer park that had 70 sites, and we had this beautiful vision to turn it into glamping. Right, we'd all seen glamping before, we've all heard of glamping before, and we really wanted to put a new spin on the whole trailer park idea. So we got these nice, cool bell tents, or yurts, other people like to call them. We got 2 really nice Airstreams and a couple more renovated trailers to really give people a cool experience of glamping. And the way our team designed all the tents was that 8 of the tents that we have all have a different theme to them. Right, so Darren, I think, stayed in the one that we had designed as the palm. Right, but somebody can come back next time and be boho, or
I didn't realize they were different.
They're all different.
All different.
Yeah, so they're all different. They're on Airbnb. Exactly.
You won't know until you walk in, right? So yeah.
And we wanted you to be able to come back next year, of course, right? And then all of a sudden you get a different experience and you get a new setup and a new kind of feel for it too. So it's been
like bringing all the crap. I was like, this is a game changer. Like I grew up camping with a motorhome.
Yeah.
And so we had to like pack the food, and it was often like my mom's sort of like responsibility to get all the grocery shopping done, and my dad and I would like fill the trailer up with water and do all that kind of stuff. But like once we kind of got in there, it was like, kind of like life at home.
Of course,
it wasn't that
it's a mini home.
Yeah. Glamping's like the halfway point. Like, you don't have to bring the tent, you don't have to set it up, you don't have to bring bed sheets.
Nothing.
Like, I've gone tent camping with my friends. I'm like, to pack up all this stuff is like, it's not worth it for 2 days. All I really want to do is sit around a campfire and eat hot dogs and chips and drink beer and not feel guilty about it.
Exactly. And be one with nature. Like
go glamping instead. Trust me, it's you're gonna be glad you did it. So
it is.
Talk about the promotion you did. We've got like 5 minutes left here. So
so the promotion
then we'll rapid
like
fire
with Grotto Getaway.
Yeah.
Grotto. So we did 70% marketing when we were away because we were working remotely. And Zac actually, because he's one of the owners, so he took on the marketing side as well because he was with me.
Had a good help.
Yeah, he was a good help because he couldn't be there, boots on the ground. Yeah. So we worked on collaborations because we were traveling, and we've learned that travel content creators are the perfect people for bringing experience and sharing that on the social media. And social media is a great way to market the property itself. So we got some content creators that came to the campground. We found some local people to work with, like Ontario travel content creators that travel the world, but also target Ontario region. And for instance, we did Explore Ontario. We collaborated with her, and she blew up.
That was the giveaway. We decided let's do a 2-night giveaway, right, to help showcase people, to get people to know about our property. And we did that for one of our tents, and I think there was like 18,000 comments on this post. More than I've ever seen on any one of my posts. I can say yours and mine, and maybe hers combined.
And mine combined.
Right? It was great.
But it's all about collaborating, and you'll be surprised because you're in a new region, right? So you don't know other businesses around there. They want to collaborate with you, and we have like a cute coffee shop down the street. You know, like that. Locals would just go there from the campground, and it's just
stopped in.
Right. Okay,
exactly.
There you go. Yeah, no, it's all about collaboration with any business that you do. You need to collaborate with other people because it actually helps yourself a lot and helps them too. Bring audience.
It's a win-win.
It's a win-win.
Win-win situation.
Okay, let's rapid fire a couple questions here. Zac, flipping. Can you provide more detail why you don't think flipping is a great idea right now?
Yeah, again, 100%. It always depends on the numbers, right? Like you're saying, even if the numbers do work, I would just have a backup plan, right? Because we don't necessarily know where the market's going to be in 6 to 12 months, right? Could it come down a little bit further? Of course, so make sure you're running your numbers extra conservatively. But I think, and Darren teaches us in his course as well too, like you just always have a backup plan, right? What if you can't sell it for that price that you really, really, truly need? Can you rent it out to cover your costs? Is there a different strategy? Can you do rent to own maybe? Just really, really have a backup plan. So no, it's not impossible to flip right now. And I, would just say be very careful. That's the best way to say it.
Yeah. Where and when are you traveling next?
Your mom put that question in.
Costa Rica.
She's like,
because she knows we're
meeting
meeting her in Costa Rica. Yeah, so we're going to Costa Rica next, and we're super excited.
Me too.
Yeah.
We'll see Darren there as well
Yeah,
too.
we'll see you there.
I'm going there Wednesday, actually, just for 4 days.
Wow.
Oh, okay.
We have our development there that's actually we're going to go in front of the water authority.
Nice.
Okay.
So we have our initial design, and basically we're going to go and take that to the authority to say, is this in line with what you were hoping to see?
Perfect.
So my architect was like, I think it'll bode well if you actually fly down.
Yeah.
And you're there with me. They'll be speaking Spanish. I'll just be looking what's going on.
Smiling, nodding.
But I think it's really good as a show of just like the owner's here. He's really engaged in the project.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that all goes well. And then
Nice.
basically what we did is we reverse engineered. We kind of went to them first and said, what would you like to see in the development? Then the architect went and designed it. Now he's going to come back with me as the owner and say, here's what we did
Very
based
cool.
on your recommendations. So I'm there next week for just 4 days. Then we're in Quebec City for the master plan.
Looking forward to that.
So that's my next couple travels. And then I leave December 16th. I'll go to Arizona for a couple weeks.
Oh,
See
nice.
my parents for Christmas. And then I'll go to Costa Rica for 3 months. So.
To see us.
Yes,
for
see
sure.
us. We'll be out
Awesome.
there.
If you have about $3 million saved up today, how do you spend it today given the market trend? Asking from the GTA.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Danielle, what do you think? It's a great question. I don't even know how to start. I would just say make sure you're diversifying, right? Obviously don't put all that money into one asset. Just make sure you're really looking. And I think the best way to start is just what's the end goal with the 3 million.
That would be my thing. Like,
Yeah.
What's like are you hoping to build? Cash flow, equity,
Yeah.
like what's the goal? For me, like $3 million, if I could get that money working at 10%,
Yeah.
right? That's 300 grand a year.
Can make some good cash flow.
I might not invest in properties if I felt like I could just make $300,000 in passive income.
Yeah.
And do some private lending or whatever else. The challenge is that you would just have there's no guarantees in real estate.
Exactly.
You have to, like you say, diversifying would be a great way to go about it.
Start with the end in sight, work backwards.
Yeah. One sort of random question, and I'm not sure if you know the answer to this, Zach, but or Danielle, what are your thoughts on a whole life insurance for real estate investors?
Yeah, I do have whole life insurance, and I know a lot of real estate investors take full advantage of it. I can't say I'm taking full advantage of it right now, but because I did it when I was about 5 years ago, when I was younger, the cost of it was so cheap. I was explained all the benefits, and to me, I just thought like it was another great tool to have in my back pocket for whenever I needed it.
Yeah, I've looked at it as well, and I think it's an interesting thing. I know there's a lot of benefits in terms of you can borrow against it. And
Exactly.
Stuff. And it was actually a recent thing that my limited partners put into my general partnership agreement was they wanted me to have a life insurance policy.
Oh, wow.
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's like if I die tomorrow,
knock on wood. Yeah, exactly.
they would want to make sure that there was enough money to sort of like take care of the deal.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much.
Thank you
for taking some time today. That was a lot of fun.
It was.
I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope everyone watching and listening, got some cool tidbits and information. We talked about a lot of stuff today. We talked about travel, and social media, and business, and everything, and it's exactly what I kind of hoped it would be. So thank you guys for jumping in here. And for those people that want to connect with you, what's the best way, Danielle, to reach out to you and Zach to reach out to you?
For me, it's email or on Instagram is pretty easy by Danielle Dome, or my email is on my Instagram. So maybe just go straight there. By Danielle Dome.
Instagram's easiest too. Just my name, Zach Williams, and you'll see me on Danielle's Instagram as well too.
So you can't miss us at all.
Can't miss it.
Well, thank you guys so much for being here today.
No, thanks for having us.
Super excited about our trip coming up to Quebec City.
I know, can't wait.
And then excited to see you guys in Costa Rica. Can't wait to show you Nosara. It's like
yes.
Looking forward to it.
Yes.
So if anybody's looking to hook up with all of us, we'll be in Nosara.
There you go.
Yes.
So that'd be fun.
Come join.
Absolutely. Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody for jumping in the chat, asking questions.
Take care.
We'll see everybody in a couple weeks with our next session.